Thanks, Annie, and thank you for leading us through a masterful job of such an interesting conversation. Thanks, Lynn, Liz, and Atue for your insights. That was super interesting. We're going to shift gears here a little bit. We're going to go into a sort of a deep dive, an artist vignette from Daryl Ratcliffe, co-founder of Gospian Investments. My colleague Kelly Jackson, who is helping us with this with the webinar, will be bringing up the presentation, and I'll just pass the mic over to you, Daryl.
All right, thank you so much, David. Yeah, my name is Daryl Ratcliffe. I'm an artist and poet, and I'm very thankful for the invitation from YBCA and the New York Federal Reserve to share a few stories from my practice, and I'm so excited to share this space with you. So let's get started. I launched my company in March with my co-founder Maya Crawford, and we named our company Gospian Investments. And Gospian is an old Latin word for cotton. I'm from Dallas, Texas, a city built on stolen land, namely that of the Caddo and Wichita, and built by stolen labor. Dallas was the largest inland port for cotton in the country, and the production and trade of cotton established the modern global economy. And I thought, what better metaphor for reclaiming what was always ours, what we literally built and worked for, what connects us and is resonant all the world over, than to name the company founded by descendants of slaves in the South after cotton. And we can advance. Gospian's mission is to evolve the role of culture in society, and this is because culture transmits ideas. Culture is what spread the idea of white supremacy, so it's up to culture to spread a new idea, one of anti-racism. And culture is created by artists, and artists lead. In particular, our team at Gossi works in artist management, cultural consulting, branding and PR, real estate development, and cultural investments. Yet these ideas are informed by a decade of grassroots organizing, cultural production, artistic practice, and learning how to be small, organic, and messy. Next slide. How many of you are familiar with the hit CW teen drama Gossip Girl? This show, set in the Upper East Side of New York City, was the first pop culture moment to introduce the practice I most closely associate with, social practice or social sculpture, which was initiated by artist Joseph Beuys in the 70s. And as the character Dorota says, social sculpture illustrates the idea of art's potential to transform society. This is an idea I fully believe in and attempt to achieve in my practice as an artist. Next. So the first story I want to share with you starts with a crawfish boil in East Dallas in 2014. I had asked a few friends of mine, an investment banker, a natural gas trader, and a financial advisor to help me launch a new project called Creating Our Future. I thought it was weird that our city government gave money to organizations to support the arts, but wouldn't give any money to the artists themselves, the people who actually make the art. At this time, none of us had been to a city council meeting, but we knew we wanted to let people know a movement was being birthed. And what better way than a backyard crawfish boil? Next. And I was working with Clyde Valentine to help start what would become SMU's at Night Art Dallas. And the first thing they did was have think tanks where they brought in experts from all across the country to help them think about how to shape that center. And I was shocked and impressed because all of this time and energy and care was taken just to think about something. I immediately thought, doesn't the grassroots deserve the same level of thought and care? Except we weren't at SMU. We were at Ash Studios, the Black and Latinx space co-founded with my creative partner, Fred Villanueva, in 2012 in South Dallas. And we could have margaritas. So I invited artists and people who cared to a series of think tanks called Margarita Think Tank, and over 60 creatives created a policy agenda over several Saturday afternoons. Next, please. We soon realized that drinking and planning was a whole mood. So we branched out from margaritas to mimosas. Dollar Mimosa Club, which ran from 2014 to 2019, hosted over 1,000 North Texas creatives for brunch at Maraca's restaurant in Deep Ellum. I can't overstate how important building this community was. There was never an agenda. The tagline was drink mimosas, get rowdy, and change the world. Next. Margarita Think Tank gave us a list of demands, which we translated into a policy agenda. Dollar Mimosa Club was able to share that agenda with a wide range of creatives in an organic way. We wanted funding and decided that we would do what we did best as creatives, put together an art show, have a concert, raise money, and give it to other artists to show that our city, that artist grants weren't that hard to do. Next, please. It was multidisciplinary, and we found that we were able to successfully model what granting looked like. And we found that we could get people to art commission meetings and city council meetings. Next. And eventually we realized that we needed to work directly on city council races and register our community to vote and volunteer on behalf of candidates. Next slide. This is from an event at Ash Studios in 2015 called The Artivist, where we registered over 150 people to vote and had several candidates for city council speak to our artist community. Next slide. And part of the magic was that Ash Studios was reaching out to youth culture and the hip hop community our Black and brown neighborhoods preferred. And with that came an incredible amount of energy. This is now music superstar Travis Scott releasing his hit single Antidote at our painting studio in South Dallas. Next. And this is a bit of the energy that led to over 35,000 people from our communities to visit our art studio and get to know us not just as artists, but as an important venue and point of access to art and culture that catered to them. Next. And we were able to take that energy, the artists we met in our neighborhoods, back into the more formal contemporary art world of Dallas and make the case for the need for cultural equity. Next, please. This is me with former Mayor of Dallas, Mike Rawlings, after the city council changed the cultural policy to allow for individual artist grants. Green Our Future was successful, and somehow what started with a crawfish boil, advanced to margaritas, matured over mimosas, mobilized over art, poetry, and music, ended with the creation of individual artist grants and cultural equity grants through the city of Dallas. We had gone from 0 city dollars when we started in 2014 to over 3.5 million given to artists to date. Next slide. My next large project was called Decolonized Dallas, which was commissioned by the city of Dallas for Dallas Arts Month. It was done by the art collective I'm part of, Michelada Think Tank, and particularly with my creative partner, Carol Zhao. And it was an attempt to introduce decolonial frameworks to our cultural ecosystem. At the time, no DOPL was going on, and the company building the Dakota Access Pipeline was based in Dallas. Our project description included the most progressive language, from land acknowledgments to the history of slavery and Jim Crow to displacement of people of color due to gentrification that had been acknowledged by the city of Dallas to that point. Next, please. A lot of what we were doing was thinking about how art and cultural production could happen outside of the city core. And we worked with artists who had lifelong connections with neighborhoods to make site-specific works for their communities. Next. One of these sites was at a crumbling mall in a Black neighborhood that was mostly vacant, like many malls across this country, called Redbird Mall. I grew up going to this mall, and I worked with some artists who had a collective called Super Fantasy Mercado, who had also grown up going to this mall, to create an installation that functioned as a pop-up store. Next. We wanted to challenge the idea of how lower income people of color don't appreciate or want to own contemporary art. So we worked with over 40 artists to have affordable pieces of art on display, all priced under $100 and most under $30. Next, please. And then other artists from the neighborhood started adding their art to the mix as well. And the store, which was open only on weekends during the month of April, sold over $7,000 of art. More importantly, Decolonized Dallas helped change policy again by having the city prioritize its funding to art in neighborhoods outside the Dallas Arts District and downtown core. Also, the new owners of the mall have continued to work with art organizations to use the mall as a space for culture. Next slide. Oops, and one more, please. Thank you. So this summer, neither myself nor my new company was taken off guard by the reigniting of Black Lives Matters and renewed attention to racial injustice. I was able to assist another artist, Teresa Nguyen, in the creation of the Umbrella Project, where dozens of artists wrote names of loved ones killed by the police on yellow umbrellas in conjunction with a local alliance of justice organizations in defense of Black Lives Dallas. It was so beautiful to see our umbrellas deployed in the streets and see artists doing what they do, which is helping define visual aesthetics and seeing how they help amplify the messages of activists and organizers on the ground. Images of the umbrellas found themselves on the front page of the Dallas Morning News, as well as in the New York Times and on the Rachel Maddow Show. Next slide. Currently, we're working with large corporations like Headington Companies, one of the larger property owners in downtown Dallas, to work with artists of color to help visually redefine downtown and who has access to it. This is an intervention by two great artists, Abby Salami and Molly Sidner, in front of Tony Tatzett's eye sculpture, which was tagged by protesters this summer. Next. And this is part of a vinyl installation by Kayla Faye in downtown Dallas. We want to shift the visual rhythms and messages of our cities. We want to increase representation of artists of diverse backgrounds. I've been working with UT Southwestern Medical Center on diversifying their art collection that they place in their hospitals and clinics. Part of our mission is really challenging and trying to figure out who owns the infrastructure of our cities and of our cultural ecosystems. Gossi wants to have the movement around cultural equity to include creating cultural infrastructures that are built for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Next slide. We had the pleasure of working with all the contemporary art museums in North Texas to implement Carrie Mae Weems' Resist COVID Take Sits project, making sure the project was actually connected to the communities that needed to see her art the most. By working with over 50 community organizations, including our largest food banks, the City of Dallas, and several neighborhood coalitions, we distributed not only artwork, but also over 10,000 high-quality masks in COVID hotspots in Dallas and Tarrant counties. We led 38 staffers from 7 museums to do our part to help stop the spread of COVID in our region. It was art as both public health and as hope. Next slide. Currently, our project, Gossipian Real Estate Group, or GREG, which consists of Lizzie McWillie, Lisa Nearcard, Sophia Bastidas, Maya, and myself, have just finished our floor plan for converting single-family housing into live-work artist spaces without needing zoning changes. Our goal is to purchase land and build our first prototypes or convert existing housing into this layout. Next slide. Through my work, I've realized that artists need to be real estate developers, we need to be policymakers, we need to be fund managers, that we are already improving the health and economies of our communities, and we must work with larger partners to deepen that work. I am part of a brilliant artist cohort assembled by YBCA that is forming a new model, an artist giving circle that Yerba Buena Center for the Arts has seeded with $250,000, and our 11 artists from across the country we hope to grow their seed another 100 times to $25 million in capital. But the model is centered on trust. The model is centered on us reclaiming our power. Our cohort of artists are deciding what to do with the money, how to distribute it amongst ourselves, amongst others, and what does a return look like for us. Next slide. In closing, right now we have an opportunity to invest in artists to help stabilize, heal, and grow our communities, to help define our true community narratives, to help drive our city's policies. I went from never going to a city council meeting to helping write our city's cultural plan, from watching my childhood mall die to now envisioning how we can shift all malls from sites of consumerism to sites of cultural production, helping to design spaces that work within existing city codes to provide live-work opportunities for artists, and paying it forward by being angel investors in other artists' ideas like Anand Balam's The Meme-ennial, which is the first biennial for artist memes. We can't do this work alone. We need you to invest, we need you to trust, and we need you to partner with us so we can dismantle every system that oppresses us. We need you to invest in artists so that we can create better, more joyous, more healthy, more resilient, and more cohesive communities all over this country. Thank you.
Daryl, thank you. Thanks so much. And the Get Rowdy, Change the World theme leapt off of every single one of those images. So thank you.